What's good, YouTube? Sensational Sinceres here, and I'm back with another Tom Clancy's The Division Vendor Reset video. We're here for March 6th, 2020's Vendor Reset. So let's get right into this to see what we got good for this week. Okay, so for our first gear items, we're going to head over to Camp Hudson. Here, the gear vendor has a Spec Ops mask with the talent Tenacious on there. It has a gear score of 279. The armor is 966. This roll for electronics 1247. And the attributes it has is health on kill and disorienting resistance. And then I mentioned this because I'm here, it's kind of low, but we have a prototype firearms mod with 249 firearms and 2,888 health. For our next gear item, we're going to head over to the cavern. Here, the gear vendor has a prototype electronics mod with 259 electronics and 1% crit hit chance. For our next gear item, we're going to head over to the base operations. Here, the weapons vendor has a military RPK-74M with a gear score of 281. It has 20% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents we got here is accurate, brutal, and competent. And then also here we got a 5.52 hollow sight with 7% crit hit chance, 6% headshot damage, and 4% crit hit damage. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations, and the gear vendor here has a gunslinger's vest with the talent Vigorous on there. It has a gear score of 272. The armor is 1,905. Its roll for firearms 1,136. And the attributes we got is health on kill, health, and increased kill XP. And then also here we got a prototype electronics mod with 258 electronics and 3% skill haste. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations. Head over to the advanced weaponry vendor, and here we got a Vector 45 AACP with a gear score of 281. It has 21.50% crit hit chance, and the talents we got here is competent, deadly, and ferocious. Also here we got a Model 700 with a gear score of 272. It has 164% headshot damage, and the talents we got here is ferocious, accurate, and elevated. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations. You want to head over to the special equipment vendor here, and we got a Cassidy with a gear score of 258. It has 297.50% stagger. And the talents we got here is capable, ferocious, and boomstick. Also here we got a Liberator with a gear score of 267. It has 20% enemy armor damage. And the talents we got here is vicious, unforgiving, and self-preserved. Also here we got a tactical vest with the talent Reckless on there. It has a gear score of 265. It has 1,720 armor. Its roll for stamina 1,231. And the attributes we got is enemy armor damage, health on kill, and increased kill XP. Also here we got a tactical pack with the talent Inventive on there. It has a gear score of 271. It has 1,207 armor. Its roll for electronics 1,247. And the attributes we got here is health and ammo capacity. Also here we got a prototype firearms mod with 251 firearms and 2.50% exotic damage resilience. Also here we got an extended magazine with 117% magazine size, 4% crit hit damage, and 3% crit hit chance. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Kerman Station. Here the weapons vendor has a Tyrant suppressor with 7% crit hit chance, 2% accuracy, and 2.50% stability. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Camp Clinton. Here the special equipment vendor has a Pecan if you like to run this weapon. It has a gear score of 280. It has 20% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents this has is deadly, accurate, and pecan. Also here we got a Historian with a gear score of 277. It has 144% headshot damage. And the talents we got here is dominant, competent, and Historian repeats. Also here we got a Vector 45 ACP with a gear score of 268. It has 19.50% crit hit chance. And the talents we got here is hurry, deadly, and vicious. Also here we got a tactical M249 Para with a gear score of 264. It has 20% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents we got here is competent, talented, and ferocious. Also here we got an operator vest with the talent Rapid on there. It has a gear score of 270. The armor is 1,747. Its roll for firearms 1,247. And the attributes we got here is health on kill, health, and ammo capacity. Also here we got a Spec Ops pack with the talent Relentless on there. It has a gear score of 262. The armor is 1,147, and its roll for stamina 1,128. And the attributes we got here is health and bleed resistance. Also here we got some operator gloves with the talent Savage on there. They have a gear score of 272. The armor is 973. Its roll for firearms 1,174. And the attributes we got here is enemy armor damage, crit hit chance, and shotgun damage. Also here we got a prototype performance mod with 3.50% ballistic shield damage. Also here we got a pro red dot sight with 18% crit hit damage, 5.50% headshot damage, and 2.50% stability. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Autumn's Hope. Here the gear vendor has a Spec Ops armor with the talent Vigorous on there. It has a gear score of 275. The armor is 1,963. Its roll for firearms 1,161. And the attributes we got here is exotic damage resilience, enemy armor damage, and ammo capacity. Also here we got a prototype performance mod with 4.50% ballistic shield damage resilience. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Madison's Stand. Here the gear vendor has a Spec Ops mask with the talent Tenacious on there. It has a gear score of 263. The armor is 865. Its roll for firearms 1,203. And the attributes we got here is skill power and increased kill XP. And also here we got a prototype performance mod with 5% first aid self-heal. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to the last call. Here the weapons vendor has an Omega rifle suppressor with 7.50% headshot damage, 4% crit hit damage, and 2.50% stability. Also here we got a custom M44 with a gear score of 269. It has 143% headshot damage. And the talents we got here is dominant, accurate, and deadly. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to the ward. Here the gear vendor has a Spec Ops pack with the talent Inventive on there. It has a gear score of 275. The armor is 1,204. Its roll for stamina 1,251. And the attributes we got is health and disrupt resistance. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the firewall. Here the gear vendor has a Spec Ops armor with the talent Rapid on there. It has a gear score of 270. The armor is 1,752. Its roll for stamina 1,259. And the attributes we got here is enemy armor damage, exotic damage resilience, and ammo capacity. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to the crypt. Here the weapons vendor has a SASG-12 with a gear score of 270. It has 307.50% stagger. And the talents we got here is brutal, competent, and swift. And also here we got a heavy magazine spring with 12% magazine size, 4% crit hit damage, and 10.70% rate of fire. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to West 34th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has an operator mask with the talent refreshed on there. It has a gear score of 276. The armor is 984. Its roll for stamina 1,238. And the attributes we got here is skill power and damage to elites. Also here we got a prototype stamina mod with 265 stamina and 3,285 skill power. For our next gear items, you want to head over to West 42nd Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a tactical mask with the talent Tenacious on there. It has a gear score of 273. The armor is 996. Its roll for stamina 1,160. And the attributes we got is skill power and burn resistance. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to West 46th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a converted SMG-9. If you like this weapon, it has a gear score of 272. It has 22% crit hit chance. And the talents we got is vicious, fierce, and deadly. Also here we got a loud vent break with 17% crit hit damage, 2% accuracy, and 2.50% stability. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 61st Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone weapon mod vendor has an extended magazine with 120% magazine size, 4% crit hit damage, and 5.30% rate of fire. Also here we got an SR7 suppressor with 18% crit hit damage, 4.50% optimal range, and 3% crit hit chance. Also here we got a small grip with 18% crit hit damage, 5% reload speed, and 4.50% optimal range. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 58th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a Spec Ops pack with the talent Inventive on there. It has a gear score of 267. The armor is 1,211. Its roll for electronics 1,153. And the attributes we got here is stability and burn resistance. For our next gear items, we want to head over to the Park Ave checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone weapons vendor has a lightweight M4 with a gear score of 262. It has 21% enemy armor damage. And the talents we got here is deadly, brutal, and sustained. Also here we got a custom M870 MCS with a gear score of 279. It has 321.50% stagger. And the talents we got here is ferocious, brutal, and competent. And also here we got a classic M1A with a gear score of 278. It has 158% headshot damage. And the talents we got here is vicious, destructive, and commanding. And then also here we got a classic M60 with a gear score of 275. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents we got here is deadly, determined, and vicious. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 42nd Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has an operator pack with the talent specialized on there. It has a gear score of 265. The armor is 1,158. Its roll for electronics 1,163. And the attributes we got here is crit hit damage and disrupt resistance. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 40th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has an operator mask with the talent enduring on there. It has a gear score of 268. The armor is 894. Its roll for stamina 1,242. And the attributes we got here is health on kill and blind death resistance. For our next gear items, you're going to head over to East 34th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has some Spec Op gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 268. The armor is 860. Its roll for stamina 1,232. And the attributes we got here is skill haste, marksman rifles damage, and crit hit chance. For our next gear items, you're going to head over to East 31st Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a Lova C with a gear score of 262. It has 19% enemy armor damage, and the talents it has is dominant, fierce, and intense. Also here we got a Tyrant Suppressor with 7.50% crit hit chance, 2.50% stability, and 6% headshot damage. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to the 5th Ave checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a Tyrant Suppressor with 7% crit hit chance, 4% crit hit damage, and 4.50% optimal range. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ2 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has an operator mask with the talent refreshed on there. It has a gear score of 263. The armor is 888. Its roll for electronics 1,144. And the attributes we got here is exotic damage resilience and damage to elites. Also here we got some tactical gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 264. The armor is 894. Its roll for electronics 1,129. And the attributes we got here is shotgun damage, crit hit damage, and pistol damage. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ3 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone weapons vendor has a Police M4 with a gear score of 268. It has 23% enemy armor damage. And the talents we got on this is accurate, prepared, and vicious. Also here we got an M870 Express with a gear score of 266. It has 322.50% stagger. And the talents we got on this is capable, responsive, and destructive. And also here we got a First Wave M1A with a gear score of 273. It has 161% headshot damage. And the talents we got on this is adept, ferocious, and skilled. And then also here we got a military M60 E4 with a gear score of 278. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents we got on this is accurate, ferocious, and prepared. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ5 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone weapon mod vendor has a large suppressor with 17% crit hit damage, 5% optimal range, and 2.50% crit hit chance. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ8 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a Spec Ops mask with the talent enduring on there. It has a gear score of 267. The armor is 897. Its roll for electronics 1,193. And the attributes we got on this is exotic damage resilience and increased kill XP. Also here we got a gunslinger vest with the talent rapid on there. It has a gear score of 273. The armor is 1,980. Its roll for stamina 1,153. And the attributes we got on this is enemy armor damage, health, and ammo capacity. Alright everybody, that's it for our Tom Clancy's The Division Vendor Reset video for March 6, 2020's reset. I want to thank everybody who tuned into it. I hope they found them something that they needed. And I will see y'all with the next one, everybody. Take care. Peace.